What a pleasure to be here. It's actually the first time I've been to the US outside of California. So, yeah, getting some little Idaho hospitality. I like it. Are we all from Idaho in the house? No. Okay. I can almost put these places on a map, but I wouldn't feel too confident. Anyone actually from Idaho? A few. Okay, come on. Yeah, make some noise. Nice. I am the only one speaking today with a funny accent. That's true. I like that. Um, and what we're really going to be talking about is Google, and specifically Google Ads, and also YouTube. So the idea is, and I was thinking about a title and what sort of title I could use, get more leads and sell more homes. I mean, isn't that the objective? Isn't that what we're here to do? And I think like at the end of the day, who in the house has actually tried using digital ads to get more leads? Yeah, so near everyone. But who's found it a little bit overwhelming or a little bit sort of tricky? Yeah, because the problem with these programs is that there's a big barrier to entry, I think. There's a big knowledge barrier. You either have to end up paying someone to do it, or paying someone for their time, or whatever it ends up being, or doing it yourself and potentially probably doing it wrong. So I just want to kind of demystify a lot of those barriers. And there's a lot of clicking involved, and while I'm not going to give you the specifics of where exactly to click, I'll talk you through the strategies. If you want to talk later about kind of the specifics, we can definitely do that. But I think considering you don't have your laptops open, just like some sort of presentation about exactly where to click would be the wrong move here. So I've just focused on more of the high-level sort of elements of Google Ads, and I think that'll really be very beneficial for us today. Bless you. So quick look at the agenda. We're going to deep dive into Google Ads. I'll give you a bit of an intro about myself and who the heck I am to begin with. We're going to deep dive into Google Ads. Then we're going to look at some seller-side lead strategies, some buyer-side lead strategies as well. I'll look at what sort of budget you need, a quick comment on retargeting, and finally I wanted to talk about YouTube, because I think it's a real sort of big opportunity for you all. So a quick note about me. As Lisa said, she got my bio pretty good, actually. I'm glad we didn't put that whole thing on the screen. I would have been a little bit embarrassed. But essentially, I used to work at Google. My first job out of university was at Google, and I was there for a few years. So at Google, my job was to basically be a digital ad strategist. Like I was a Google Ads expert. That's all I did. I worked with some of the biggest and fastest growing brands in Australia and New Zealand. And sort of since leaving, I decided to leave Google shortly after COVID hit because I felt that I could potentially grow and expand and do more. And since leaving, I've managed to work with, actually, let's just look at these embarrassing photos first of all. So I'm ashamedly young. I think I've aged poorly in the last few years, to be honest, because this is not that long ago. I guess that's what working for yourself does to you, to be honest. So this is me looking very fresh-faced. Or maybe it's Google Ads that's aged me, who knows? But either way, I started Google fresh out of university, and I've really managed to work with some fantastic brands, big and small. So while at Google, I did work with a bunch of these guys. Many of them you might know, or some of them you might not. And then as an independent consultant, I've also run Google Ads for some of the sort of fastest growing brands in Australia and New Zealand. Chobani, Energy Australia, which is our kind of, I'm not sure what the equivalent would be here in the US, but it's basically like the only energy provider in the country. So the key thing, and this is I think why Lisa reached out to me, is that while I was there, I actually led the Google Ads trainings. So like I built the content itself, and then I was responsible for sort of delivering these presentations around the country over the period of a couple of years. And that's me again, looking a little bit young, but you got to show this. You got to show, this shows a little bit of progression, a little bit of growth. Don't mind it. What I've done since leaving is I've also built an online program for people to learn Google Ads themselves. And that's actually how Lisa got in touch with me, because she saw one of the ads that I was running. Ironically, not a Google ad, a Facebook ad. But nevertheless, it worked, because here I am. So I want to kind of talk about some of the challenges that you guys are facing. I've done a lot of research into the real estate market in the US in preparing for this. And I think that it's a tricky period of time, from what I've gathered. Like, there are some bad sales numbers going around. There's this NAR settlement, which you would probably be all up to speed on. I had to get up to speed on that. You've got this election. You're all feeling the pressure. AI and all the millions of tools available for you with AI. And then you've also got social media content and everyone telling you to post more content, and sort of this overwhelming feeling of like, what am I going to post? I'm not entertaining, blah, blah, blah. So I just think, let's just demystify, because a lot of this ends up being really tricky to kind of grapple with. So specifically as real estate agents, I think that what we'll cover today should be really impactful. The one thing to remember, though, that is this idea that there really are people with a lot less than you doing a lot more than you. So if we can figure out how to remove some of these roadblocks and how to kind of engage with these digital tools in a way that actually makes sense, then we should be able to make some headway. So it really is all about you. You've made the step to come here. You've paid your hard-earned money to come here and be part of this. You've committed to taking action, and we're going to sort of commit to taking even more action by the end of this. And you're really willing to do what it takes, which is clear. And I think that the purpose of today is to really use this energy and to direct it in a way that enables you to leverage Google Ads, and also YouTube. So I want to talk about a couple of nuances that will impact how you approach not just Google Ads, but digital advertising generally speaking. And it's really important to remember this. You have the longest sales cycle possible. I work with all sorts of businesses. I can run ads for a dentist. I run ads for a lot of dentists, actually. They love Google Ads. Someone types in dental implants near me, they can become a lead and pay the business the following week. Or even the next day. Things move quickly in certain industries. Yours does not. So it means that, as you know, so it means that you have to be prepared. There's a certain mindset that needs to be considered when running ads in an industry like yours, because you're not going to make money instantly and get that return on investment in the first month. It might not even be till sort of months 3, 4, 5 that you start to get deals coming through, but it's this long-term mindset when you have a long sales cycle like you that we have to keep in mind. Because the way the ads will work, we can get you leads, but typically the most cost-effective way, which I'll cover shortly, is that we're looking at buyer-side leads, because they tend to be more cost-effective, because everyone is going after sellers. And so when you're talking about cost-per-click platforms like Google Ads, it can be really expensive to try and do that. And so I think it's much more effective actually to be going for buyers. There's competing sides and arguments either side, but I think in general, buyers do tend to be the more cost-effective sort of customer to go after. But today we're going to cover both. There are strategies for either side, and I wanted to let you decide. But my main attitude, my main sort of takeaway here is this mindset of, in a long sales cycle, how do we kind of approach lead generation? And it's with a bit of patience, is the answer. So the first thing I wanted to look at is a funnel. Now, I don't have a pen and paper, but I wanted to get a feel. So we had some hands earlier about sort of the digital ads you've tried to use. Who's used Facebook ads? Yeah, and Google ads? Everyone, or a little bit less Google ads? Who's actually used Google ads in the house? Only a couple, okay. Maybe the barrier to entry with Google ads is a bit higher, do you feel? I wonder why everyone in the room's used Facebook ads and no one's used Google. To use Facebook? Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So she said you just click, set the budget, and sort of, that's it. Google it's the same in a way, but what I want to show you is a little bit, Google ads and Facebook ads would kind of be sitting at the top of this funnel here. If we imagine the buyer journey, where you've got sort of the moment of conversion, which is where they actually pay you and sell their house down the bottom here. Google ads and Facebook ads I'd be putting up the top. It's where we're getting cold traffic. It's like they have never heard of you, they don't know you yet, and it's about sort of sucking them into the funnel at the top, at the beginning of that process, at the beginning of the buyer journey. So with a Facebook ad, they're just scrolling, probably mindlessly, which I'm very guilty of, and you're showing them an ad, and there they go, they click, and suddenly they know who you are. Google ads, it's the same thing, but we're going after keywords. So it's like they're typing in value my home or sell my home or things related to this. Either way, they've still never heard of you. They're not typing in your name. And they're basically coming into your funnel at the top. As you continue to engage them from there with maybe retargeting strategies and ways to keep them engaged, that's when we push them further down the funnel until, of course, we can get to this moment of conversion. But any industry that we end up working with, or that I've worked with, we always consider this sort of situation, this funnel. Have we all seen the funnel idea before? Yeah, and pulling them through. Actually, one thing I've noticed is that Americans are very enterprising, much more so than Australians, I think. I don't know if I spoke to a room full of real estate agents in Australia that they would know what this is, except some sort of cooking device, So I think it's, and I've never used one personally, a physical funnel, but I know what this is. So let's look then at Google Ads. And I want to give you, what's the point of working at Google if I can't give you a bit of a deep dive into what Google Ads is all about? He likes that. We might have to call the police. I'm not sure what that was. It's Ross, exactly. So we all know the user makes a search query. This is starting high level, right? They type something into Google. You've got your organic results appearing. That's what we refer to as SEO, search engine optimization. So you can invest in SEO. You can. I usually just advise people to invest in SEM, which is what we refer to as the ads. So that's search engine marketing. So when you talk about SEO, a lot of people always ask me if I can help them with SEO. That's actually not what I do. SEO is a bit of a dark science, like it's a black box. It's this idea of trying to kind of, game Google's system to make it think that you are more relevant than you actually might be. That's what it's about, writing blog articles, including certain words. But at the end of the day, if you're a big business and people are visiting your website anyway, Google knows. So I tend to just focus on paid ads. Yeah. Also, feel free, I'm seeing some curious faces, feel free to ask me any questions. Please just put your hand up. I don't want to talk at you for a couple of hours. Let's make sure it's a little bit interactive, but I will, of course, leave time at the end for specific kind of Q&A. So you've got your search terms. They trigger the ads. This is just a high-level look at how it all works. And that's really how it works. So in the system, we're targeting certain words. There's bid strategies, there's budgets, there's cost per clicks, there's all sorts of things that go into it. But at the end of the day, it's just that. It's which words do we actually want to pay for to appear first for, okay? And it's quite unique when we consider the difference between this type of ad and a Facebook ad, which almost everyone's run, is that it's intent-based marketing. That's why it surprises me, actually, that no one's really explored Google Ads before, and I think it's a real shame because I think they just make it too hard, almost. Like, I think that Google Ads is too mystified and there's too much of a barrier to entry, and I couldn't say that in one of those presentations you saw earlier. I probably couldn't have said that, and that's the beauty of not being inside, the sanctum of Google anymore, is that I can really express this honestly. So it's intent-based marketing. Like, someone is typing in "value my home." That's a much more important moment to appear to them than just them scrolling between cat videos and something else and seeing your ad and having to convince them and sort of pull them into the funnel in that moment. So I think that intent-based marketing, rather than putting a billboard on the side of a highway and hoping people kind of observe it, which is sort of what I would consider Facebook ads, which, don't get me wrong, as I said, Lisa clicked on my Facebook ad for me to come here. But the nature of an intent-based marketing system like Google Ads is that it's just completely unique. It's the first time in history we've had this opportunity of appearing for someone right in the moment that they're searching for you or for what you offer. And we're going to look at, get a little bit deeper into all that and how that works shortly. Now, it also has implications for where we're running our search ads, because if we're selling real estate in Boise, we could just target Boise and make sure we're targeting real estate Boise and appearing in Boise. But I would actually argue that we would just target the whole of the US. We don't care if they're in New York because they're on holiday and they actually live in Boise and they're typing in real estate Boise. We want to appear for them if they're typing in real estate Boise. It's not about where they are. Like, they're seriously typing in exactly what you offer. We don't care where they are. So there are implications, whereas if you're showing ads in New York on Facebook for a real estate agent in Boise, it's highly likely that that's not a very relevant customer. So there's a really important implication there to consider about how impactful Google Ads can be. I really sound like a Google Ads salesman. So she asked if that defaults to so if the location target defaults to one or the other within Google Ads. So no, you actually have to set that. So just like Facebook, you set the location. You can do 1 kilometer radius, you can do the whole country, you can do the whole world. And there are different strategies for when you do one or the other, which we'll get into. But yeah, good question. So one thing I want to emphasize here is that Google is really the OG. Like, they initiated this process of digital advertising. So let's go on a little journey here. So back in 2000, they launched Google AdWords. They already had Google, the search engine, for a year or two before that. But they launched Google AdWords, which was this pay-per-click system, literally 24 years ago. And so the way it worked, this is an old screenshot here. The way it worked back then was just sort of paying for your ranking. Very simple. It was like $40 CPM. Now, CPM is cost per 1,000 impressions. So they would charge you more to appear higher and slightly less to appear lower. And it was just a simple model, and that was that. In 2002, they adopted this CPC, cost per click, model, factoring in relevancy, like how relevant is your website to what the user's searching for. And this is really important because it meant that Pepsi couldn't just bid on Coca-Cola and pay more money and appear first, which is not ideal for the user who's typed in Coca-Cola. So they launched this model. This is where they started to really take over the whole search market because it was very impactful versus something, for example, Yahoo were not doing at the time. And actually, Yahoo in 2002 offered to buy Google for $2 or $3 billion, which the team at Google thought about and decided no was the answer, and they're very happy that they didn't do that. A couple of years later, they introduced the display network. They bought YouTube. If you didn't know, Google owns YouTube. Google Shopping, which are like the product tiles that appear at the top of the screen when you type in buy shoes near me or something like that. App campaigns to promote apps on smartphones, smart campaigns, which are kind of irrelevant, discovery ads. Like they've just implemented all of these big changes over the last 24 years. And that's something I really want to emphasize is when you compare that to when each of these different platforms here on the screen began their digital ad programs. Because obviously, they launched their platforms first, like LinkedIn existed before LinkedIn started running ads. They had to get users, they waited a little bit, then they ran ads, or they offered the chance to run ads. So this is when each of those other platforms that we all know and love came along the timeline. Now, I guess I'm trying to emphasize that Google was created by engineers a long time ago who have made it, like it's evolved along this process. And I think that that's why it's quite complicated and there's this barrier to entry because they were the first to do it. They kind of created the whole model. If you log into a Google Ads account, it looks pretty different to a Facebook Ads account. LinkedIn Ads account looks very similar to Facebook, but very different to Google. Like they've all modeled their accounts, their platforms on Facebook and Instagram because they're kind of the most popular. TikTok looks almost exactly the same as Facebook and Instagram, but Google looks quite different. So as I was saying, essentially Google offers various different campaign types. Now you can advertise on YouTube, the display network, the search network, all sorts of things. Very quickly though, so when we're looking at that funnel that we just considered earlier, the way Google sort of sits on that funnel, because you can run YouTube ads on Google, that would be kind of top of funnel, explaining who you are, appearing for people when they didn't really ask to see you. Google Display Network is the same thing. There are those banner ads that appear on the sides of different websites. Again, it's that top of funnel kind of approach. But Google Search and Shopping are much further down the funnel here. That's when someone has specifically typed in buy shoes, and then the shopping ad for shoes appears, or like real estate agent, or buy a house, and then your ad appears. So much further down the funnel. So that's what we're going to focus on today, is this idea of Google search ads. And then we'll also look at running, like building an organic profile on YouTube, which I think is really important for you guys. So to answer these questions, how does the algorithm affect Google? This is how. So the Google Ads model, and again, this is a bit of a deep dive, just so you have an understanding for what it all is. You don't have, I want to kind of demystify the whole process. There are three stakeholders in Google's business: themselves, users who are typing things in, and you guys, the advertisers. And everyone has to be happy for the whole thing to work. So the nature of it is that each time a user types in a search query, the ad appears. There's an instantaneous auction that takes place between the various advertisers. So you can offer Google more money in that auction to appear higher up, and it's the algorithm that controls the auction. So each time you type something in and press enter, there is an auction that takes place in the back end within the blink of an eye. That is just literally code that's running and comparing my ad with your ad, with his ad, with her ad, and choosing in which order to display people, and also choosing the cost per click that we're each going to pay. So it gets a bit dense, and we actually don't need to really worry about that too much, but it's important to understand that that's really what's happening. That's why more competitive markets cost more money to advertise in. It's an auction just like any other. If there's two of us bidding for an item, the price can only go so high. If the whole room in here is bidding for real estate Boise, the cost could get up there, And it does happen. I've seen like people typing in home loans. I've seen cost per clicks in home loans, for example, of $400 for a click. But the market determines what that cost per click could end up being, because if you imagine the potential profits of a bank giving you $1 million home loan, for example, for them, they can afford to pay $400 per click. And they've just done the maths to work out that if they get enough clicks at $400, they can still make money, blah, blah, blah. But plumbers, for example, it could be $20, $30. It would never be $400 because none of them, it wouldn't make sense for them to even advertise if it was $400. So the market tends to equalize and determine what that price is going to be, if that makes sense. So if it really were just about money, though, and you could just offer Google more money to appear higher up, the formula would just be that the ranking is literally how much money you want to pay, the maximum CPC. But as I say, this would mean that potentially irrelevant advertisers could just appear really high up by offering more money, which means that the big real estate companies in the US could just crush all the locals by simply offering Google more money. So to factor this in and keep the users happy, which is that third kind of person on that triangle, we have to make sure that there's a relevancy element to the formula, which is why they invented this quality score. This is Google's secret sauce. This is Google's algorithm. It's what Google pioneered. It's what Yahoo and Bing and all that copied. It's really Google's core competency is this code that determines a website's quality score. So it's like how much money they're saying, how much money are you willing to offer us to appear high up? But they're balancing that with an understanding of how relevant are you to that user. So that means that the algorithm is combing your website, reading the search terms, understanding what you offer, and basically giving you a score per keyword to understand like how relevant you are for that search. So it gets a bit dense, but all we need to know is that as small businesses, all we need to know is that we're not simply outpriced by big businesses. Because if someone's typing in Boise, Idaho real estate, and our business name is Real Estate Boise, Idaho, or Travis Mingali Real Estate, and like, we're very relevant to what that user's looking for, we can still appear in first or second position and even pay less than potentially someone in third or fourth position because we're more relevant. So it's dynamic. I know it's a bit complicated. It's fluid. It's not as simple as pay $10 and appear in first position is the main takeaway here. And so it was invented by coders, and I know that this can get a little bit dense, but I'm absolutely here with you to, as I said, ask any questions. I just want to make sure we have this kind of overview for what the whole thing's about. What determines the quality score is the relevance of the ad, the click-through rate, and the landing page experience, all sorts of things. I think it's just important to jump to the search strategy and what this would kind of look like for us. So we're going to get in the weeds a little bit here, but as I said, my goal really is to demystify the whole nature of Google Ads so that you don't have any kind of sense of like mysticism or sort of overwhelm regarding the whole thing. It has to be an option for you. It can't be discarded because it's too hard. I think it just has to, we have to understand what it is and what it's useful for. So imagine you're a local business. Where did you say you're from? Florida, was it? Sure. What's your business called, can I ask? Your business. Yeah. What's the name of the business, sorry? Premier Realty Homes. Okay, so if you're Premier Realty Homes in Florida, you really only have three options, three strategies you could potentially pursue when it comes to keyword targeting. So the first are generic ones. So real estate, here I've given Real Estate Idaho, or Real Estate Florida would be the option here. And I say generic because they're not typing in your specific brand name, and they're not typing in your competitors either. So the first option is really this generic keyword targeting, people that don't know you, and they also don't know your competitors. And it's the same for any industry you're in, not just real estate. That's the first option. The second option is your own brand name. You can pay to appear first when someone's typed in your actual brand name. This is more relevant when you have competitors that are doing this already, bidding on your brand name, which I'm not sure if anyone's seen that, but as the industry gets more competitive, that tends to happen, is that when someone has typed in your brand name and a competitor is appearing first, like they are aggressively seeking to take that customer from you. And so in that moment, I usually advise people to bid on their own brand name as well, because otherwise you're literally losing customers to the competitor. And all sorts of funny situations can arise when this starts to happen, because it's very obvious and gets a bit toxic, actually. And the third option is to bid on your competitors. Like they are literally the only three options you have when it comes to keyword targeting. If we're thinking from a strategy position, you're either bidding on generic terms for people who don't know you, or your own brand name, or your competitors' names. There's no other kind of category that your ads would fall into. I can see people taking notes. Shall I jump to the next slide? We'll show this. This one will pop up again in a second. Slow down. Yeah. I know this. Absolutely, absolutely. Take a couple pictures. I think that the presentation is going to go around though afterwards as well. Yeah. But it's really this kind of three-pronged approach. That's all we have as an option. It will appear again in a second. So if we're going to build out a keyword list for this generic pillar, here's how we kind of do it. And this is step one. So we can all write this down. Step one is to build a keyword list. So imagine we are a real estate agency in Boise. Not bad, we can start with these kind of three, right? Real estate Idaho, buy real estate Boise, buy condo Idaho. So we could start with those three keywords. But what we really want to do is expand upon this. How much can we develop it? What's a bit better? Add in Boise townhomes for sale, apartments, Boise, Idaho homes for sale. Like, these are all part of the same kind of campaign, the same strategy. So forget Facebook ads where you're targeting someone's age and their demographic and their gender. This is like, we don't care who they are. If they're typing this in, they are relevant to us. And that's the nature, as I was saying, of this intent-based marketing, which is available to you. What's even better than all that is to add in, property for sale in Boise, Idaho, MLS, Boise, Idaho real estate listings. So what I'm showing is that for any particular target, we can really expand the list infinitely. We can add variations, we can add all sorts of plurals and misspellings and a crazy number of things. Now, we don't actually need to take this list to 1,000 keywords. But I'm showing you that when we start to get in the frame of mind of thinking about keywords, it's easy to go, yeah, I've got my 3 keywords, but it's like, how much further can we build that out? And there's usually a lot further that we can do that. There are also like tools online where you can kind of say, you can tell ChatGPT, like, give me a list of keywords for Boise, Idaho real estate, and it would give you a large list. But I think as a rule of thumb, if you can stick to kind of 10 to 15 keywords for what you're offering, that could be the way to go. So this is where I said they're coming back on the screen. How do these kind of pillars influence our strategy? Now, the previous slide showed us what this generic kind of keywords would look like, right? So Boise, Idaho, Boise real estate. They're not saying your brand name. Because remember, some people might have already heard about you at a party, and they've just skipped that whole top of funnel generic approach, and they just wanted to type in you specifically. That's great. We love that. If they've typed that in and you're appearing first organically, then you've got a customer. That's fantastic. But if they've typed you in, and as I said, a competitor's appearing first, you kind of want to get a little bit aggressive on that as well, and make sure you're locking down your own brand name to avoid losing that customer to someone else. So how do these kind of 3 pillars influence our strategy? Well, that quality score that I referred to earlier, and this is why I wanted to explain a little bit of context as to how that works, that comes into play here. So your quality score, i.e. how relevant are you to that user, is going to be really high for your own brand name, because it's plastered all over your website, it's written in the blogs, it's written in the header, it's written everywhere, it's connected with your social media profiles, which Google's ingesting as well. So your quality score is going to be really high for your own brand name and not high at all for your competitor's brand name, right? Now, I showed that formula of like quality score, cost per click, how much you're going to pay. So what this really means is that your cost per click is going to be super cheap for your own brand name because it's very relevant to what the user's searching, and super expensive for your competitors' brand names, right? So if Pepsi is bidding on Coca-Cola, they can do it, they can still do it. And they'll appear up there somewhere, but it's going to be very costly for them to do that. But if Coca-Cola bids on Coca-Cola, it's going to be quite cheap for them, actually. That's why it's not such a bad thing if you see your competitors bidding on your name. Has anyone actually seen this before? No? It happens all the time in very competitive kind of spaces, particularly service-based businesses, plumbers, lawyers, electricians. But the idea here is just giving you an understanding for how the costing system works, right? Because it's not as simple as Facebook where you sort of just set the budget and appear 1,000 times throughout the day and that's it, and they'll spend your budget, no problem. If no one's clicking, like if no one's typing in your brand name and you've run a whole campaign and you've set the budget to $1,000 a day, if you're such a small brand that no one's actually typing that in, you just won't pay anything. It won't charge you because it's cost per click, right? It's not cost to appear, or cost per 1,000 impressions, which Facebook can end up doing. So that's also the beauty of it, though, is that you're only paying if someone's clicking. So if you've set the system up properly, it's essentially free advertising. You could appear 1 million times. If they don't click on your ad, it's free. Say that again? They see you, exactly, yeah. Now, I would argue, like, why there's not many instances where you get 1,000, 1 million impressions and no clicks, because the person is literally looking for what you're offering. So the nature of it is just to show how impactful, if it's set up properly, it can really be, because you're just paying if they're clicking. And that's coming back to that triangle of Google, the user, the advertiser. Like what they've really built is actually quite impressive if you think about it. And I don't want to sound like a Google salesman, but it is the best business model for them in the history of the world. I mean, they've built this sort of system that runs in the background and makes them a fortune. And essentially the advertisers are happy, the users are happy, they're very happy. It's the most immaculate business model. Yep. There's not, it's less so like which have worked well, because a keyword that works well for one business would work poorly for another business based on what they're offering. But there is a database, there is sort of a system where you can see the average, maybe the average cost per click for a certain keyword to get an understanding for it, as well as all sorts of variants of that keyword and what their sort of ones would be. I'll get you to write this down actually. It's called SEM, as in search engine marketing, SEM Rush. And there's also, so write SEM Rush down. It's actually a paid service, but I think they have a little free trial available. There's also one just called the Google Trends. Now, Google Trends is totally free. It's where you can see on a graph how certain keywords have performed. So if you're thinking about targeting a certain word, you can see how the average search volume for that word has been over the past 5 years or whatever, and get an understanding for if it's increasing. There was actually a funny thing I saw on Google Trends recently, which was because you guys had that solar eclipse, no, or the lunar eclipse, only last week, was it? We didn't have that in Sydney, and I actually landed yesterday, so I didn't see the eclipse. But I did see something that showed that search trends for like my eyes hurt increased massively just as the eclipse was occurring. And you could see on a graph that it was, it was almost nothing, and then suddenly it sort of spiked that weekend or that day that the eclipse happened. So that sort of tool can give you an understanding for how common certain search terms are. Now, we are all real estate agents in the house, though, so I don't imagine that any of these words will be too unique or, to get good customers, I don't think we're going to come up with any kind of words that haven't been considered previously. But these sorts of tools can certainly be helpful. Okay, so we're going to zoom through this bit. This is just some tips for effective search campaigns. I'll get you, if you can, to write some dot points, because we love takeaways. So the first dot point is going to be search terms report. Okay? This gives you an understanding for which words, once your campaign is active, which words you've actually paid for. Because Google has a habit of actually taking your keywords and then basically displaying your ads for all sorts of variants of that keyword. So we have to be very particular to make sure that Google isn't spending our money on words that we don't want to pay for, because they will do that. And that can be controlled with adding negatives in the search terms report. So if you see that it keeps charging you for example, rental, like rental homes Boise, we don't really want to be paying for that sort of click. So that's the sort of thing we might see in the search terms report, click on it and say add as negative, and just basically exclude the word rental from causing our ads to show. So number one is search terms report. Number two is extensions. So here's an ad without extensions, and the one below is an ad with extensions. They're totally free to add. It takes a little bit more time to add them into your ad, but I never launch a campaign without them. As you can see, they just add a little bit more real estate. In fact, I've been saying real estate in these presentations for years, but now's the first time it's super relevant. Real estate, physical real estate on the screen, I mean. It adds more real estate. It doesn't change your cost per click. It doesn't change costings or anything. Most people just can't be bothered to add these in. They're super effective. It's a little bit of a hack. And based on my experience, ads that have them in there do basically much better. So here we have a site link extensions, contact us, track your order, all sorts of site links down there. You can have about us, contact us as different sort of links on the website. Then we have a location extension, which is just connected to Google My Business. Do we all actually have Google My Business? You know, when you type in your name and you appear on the side of the screen there? Does anyone not have that yet? A few? Yeah. So that's for your business. It's Google My Business, sorry, is like, if you go into Google and you type in your brand name, you should see that sort of panel on the right-hand side with photos, maybe location, some reviews, phone number, the option to click on your website. It's free and definitely worth it. It's called Google My Business. And so what happens is that Google My Business links with the ad, and you can actually have your location appearing Just helps you to really seem like a local business for someone who's local. Because people who are local at the end of the day want local businesses. We don't want some behemoth American corporation that's just available everywhere, appearing in the local. We want local business. The last thing is conversion tracking, because we can get 1 million clicks, we can get 10 million clicks, we can pay for them all. The question is, how many of them actually lead to potential sellers or potential buyers? And so that's where conversion tracking comes into play. Now, setting up conversions, forget the sort of geek speak, all that means is basically measuring how many people clicked on the ad, step 1, and step 2, became a lead. So that you can get numbers like, well, we spent $1,000 on ads. First question, how many conversions did we get? What was the cost per conversion? Right? Because otherwise, all you can say is we spent $1,000 on ads. And you probably got some leads, but it's like, were they from the ads, or were they from my Instagram post that I posted that same day, or were they from YouTube? So if you set up conversion tracking, you can see just in the system, you'll see a column for clicks, and you'll see a column for conversions. Now, it can get a bit tricky to set up conversion tracking. Honestly, feel free to shoot me an email afterwards. I'm more than happy to help you. But I'm just putting it here on the screen rather than running you through how to set it up, because it's going to be particular to your website. It's going to be particular to your MLS service. And I'm sure you're all using various different website platforms here. So it's going to be particular. There's no way I can just sort of explain one solution that's going to work for everyone in the room. But understanding that conversion tracking is important is the main takeaway. And then essentially bidding comes into play. This is still that dot point of, so we've had extensions previously as the second dot point, then conversions, right? This third one. And smart bidding is the final one. So smart bidding is when you're telling Google, hey Google, feel free to adjust my cost per click based on which user is likely to convert. And they're very good at doing that, actually. The only thing that they need to do that is basically conversion tracking, so that they know what a conversion is to us. And I've worked with businesses where a conversion is someone making a phone call, or someone purchasing online and actually checking out, or someone booking an appointment or becoming a lead. Like, a conversion is whatever you want it to be. In our case, it's probably going to be just someone becoming a lead. Or we could set it to phone calls as well, which is basically the same thing. So it's like email submissions or phone calls. And we can then guide Google to setting our bids accordingly. So we say, for this cost per click, for this search, Google, feel free to change the amount we're spending based on how likely the person is to become a lead. That's all it is. And again, to your question, this is answering that point of how does the algorithm come into play? This is how, because there's many aspects where we've set up the system to run ads, but we've given Google a bit of leeway as well to sort of get us more results. Just like in Facebook. So you've all run Facebook ads. You set a conversion, using the pixel, you set a conversion action, and you press optimize for the most conversions possible within this budget. That's exactly what it's doing. It's just adjusting. It's changing the numbers to basically be more competitive for users that are more likely to convert. And you say, well, how do they know who's more likely to convert? They do. They have too much information. So they can look at the typical user that converts, which 10 websites they browsed previously, what time of day that sort of tends to happen. Are they male or female? Where are they? What device are they using? What websites have they been browsing for the past 6 months? And get all sorts of data points as to the typical user that is going to convert, and just sort of run the numbers and determine that someone similar to that is also probably pretty likely to convert. And it makes sense, actually. Someone typing in buy home Boise, Idaho, for the first time ever, who's never typed that in before, is probably less likely to convert than someone who's been researching homes in Boise and sort of been along this journey for the past few months. So they do know. It's just a matter of understanding how we can track the conversions and then use smart bidding to really optimize towards our goals. So that was a little deep dive. I'm sorry if we got too deep in the deep dive into Google Ads. I'm hearing some whoops and cheers outside, behind this big wall here. But now let's jump into some actual seller-side lead strategies, okay, which I really think is actually going to be the most value-adding sort of part of this talk, really, for all of you. As I said, please feel free to ask me any questions. But I've done a fair bit of research. I've worked with real estate agents in the past in Australia, but I've also done a fair bit of research into the state of things here in the US and in coming up with these strategies. And I wanted to present your options so you really understand kind of what they are as far as Google's concerned. So the first option out of three, we've got three seller-side lead strategies that we're going to cover. The first option is the most obvious method, right? It's just sell my home, Boise, Idaho, or agent to sell home in Boise, or any kind of variant of this. Remember, this is a seller-side lead strategy because you have the option. That's the problem with being kind of a market, like a platform or a marketplace or an agent where you have sellers and buyers. You do have to choose a strategy. Who do you want first? Remember I said LinkedIn existed before LinkedIn ads existed. Like they got one side of the market and then the other came along. So this is a search that I actually did from Sydney. Literally just showing you there are ads appearing in Sydney, Australia for someone looking to buy real estate in Boise, Idaho, which I thought was really interesting. That means either they've set it up wrong or they're just really aggressive with their ads. So webuyhouse.com, cashoffer.live, 208flatfee.com. Like, sell my home Boise, Idaho would be your first strategy. Sell my home Florida. Sell my home wherever you are exactly. Maybe Florida's even too big. Sell my home. You could just do your Sunrise, exactly. You could do your town. Because remember, the more niche you get and the more specific it is to what you do, the better your quality score, the more efficient the cost per click is going to be, which is why I say, like, them appearing to me from Bondi Beach in Sydney is it's probably costing them a fortune, and it's an interesting strategy. Yeah, haha, exactly. Oh, yeah. Why is that? Are these the big... okay, yeah. Yeah, nice. Okay, so she was saying these are the ones we're happy for it to cost these guys a fortune, basically. Okay. So that's the first option, is this kind of direct keyword targeting strategy. You can do this, sell my home, wherever you are, right? That's your first option. The second option, this is a little bit more interesting. The second option is this home valuation strategy. So you can target keywords like Boise home valuation, value my home, Boise. And remember, we're focused on seller-side leads here. And you can send people to a page just like this one where they can sort of enter their address and then enter their contact details. And as they do so, you're going to then either instantly or a little bit later contact them and give them that valuation. Because this, when you're running Facebook ads, for example, is this something that you've done, this home valuation? Yeah? So what sort of pages have you sent them to when you run these ads? Okay. Yep. So you said that when you run ads, you send them to checkthepriceofmyhome.com, which leads them to a CMA. Right. Sure. Sure. And is that working well? Not really. I can't help you. Yeah, no problem. So do you own the Check the Price of My Home page, though, or is that like is that a third party? Oh, nice. Checkthepriceofmyhome.com. Something. Nice. So we've all got that. That's probably a very valuable domain in the real estate business. That's a good move. But so it's this strategy which you've explained is just sending people to a website. It can be Check the Price of My Home. It can just be realestateboise.com. It can be anything you want. And then giving them a home valuation, getting their details in exchange for a home valuation. That's the whole nature of this strategy. Now, the problem is it is actually pretty competitive, as you know. CPCs, cost per clicks, can get pretty high when things are competitive because it's an auction, don't forget. So it's like literally me standing up here running an auction, which I've seen on all sorts of American TV shows. Like, what are those ones like, when they run around getting like used products? It's always on in the gym, in my gym in Sydney, this American TV show, and they're running auctions and they're buying junk and then selling it for a little bit more. Storage Wars, exactly, yeah. So consider Storage Wars. The person running the auction is Google, okay, or it's Facebook, it's Mark Zuckerberg. And we're all the storage war kings that are fighting with each other to appear in first or second position and to get these leads. So the problem is the more of us there are in any industry, I'm glad you knew that one at Storage Wars as well. The more of us there are, the more the more expensive that this whole thing is going to be. So home valuation strategy is a good one, but when we're talking about Google, it can get a little bit expensive, which is the problem. And the other thing is that as you guys get these leads, I'm actually curious to hear, how many of the data, how much of the data, how many of these leads that you're actually getting are fully complete, first name, last name, email address, phone number, everything we need? What sort of percentage would you put on it? Oh, you got one that said your mum. Was it your mum? No. Honestly though, which percentage? Like 10, 15, 20%? Not even, yeah. And that's the problem with this, exactly. So this sort of strategy, you can end up with like fake emails or just an address and sort of the wrong first name, the wrong last name, whatever. It is an option, but it's, as you can see, it's actually a little bit tricky. Now, one sort of response to these poor leads that I did see working was from a crew who actually took that information, because you got the address, you just don't have the rest of their details, and sent them sort of a personalized letter. Something like this, obviously where the contact.name is customized for each person. But I've seen like this has worked in the past where you're running the home valuation strategy, you're getting incomplete data, but what you have is their address, you just don't know their phone number and the rest of it. But you do know that someone at that address is looking to value their home. So sending them a super sort of personalized, not an aggressive letter, but just a letter that shows that you care about your clients and you're really doing what's best for your clients. So in this case, dear Peter, I wanted to reach out as I'm currently working with multiple families eagerly looking for homes in your neighborhood. Thus far, we've not been able to find anything that suits their needs, so I'm writing to inquire whether you've ever considered or would ever consider selling your property for the right price. So it's showing that you have buyers, right? It's not sort of aggressively asking them to sell their home via you. Please understand that I'm not looking to list your property. I'm simply trying to work hard to find my clients a home in the location that they love. My goal is to ensure a swift and confidential transaction for all parties. And hopefully help you sell your home without the hassle of listing it. So again, it's this idea of like, if we're going to pursue the home valuation strategy, what's the follow-up to all the poor leads that we're definitely going to be getting? And this could be a good option. Even going door knocking. I mean, you know the address. That's the one good piece of information that you have. What you don't have is the phone number and the rest of it. So this can be a nice way to kind of, I guess, counteract the negative sides of that strategy. Has anyone done this before? You have done this? Yeah. Does it? What's the response been to these kinds of this sort of outreach? For one response, yeah. Yeah. Sure. But eventually they reach out to you, and sometimes, yeah. I mean, exactly like anything, hit and miss, yeah. But so a website is hit and miss as well. Everything's going to have a certain conversion rate. And it's about understanding, like, if we send 10 letters, how many of those people will actually respond to us? If we get, 10 different properties. If we reach out to 10 different properties, how many, or 100 of them, how many will respond? If we get 100 clicks, how many of them will actually become leads? Everything has a conversion rate. And the best brands are understanding that if they put a billboard by a highway, how many calls will they get? They're comparing that with how many calls they'll get for the same amount of money on Google and the same amount of money on Facebook. And it's like, they're all just different channels to do the same thing, right? So the third strategy in this seller side lead strategy with Google is to do a suburb strategy. This one actually, I've been reading a lot online. This one has been working quite well in the US. I'm not sure if you would have come across this one before. But so the idea here is we're targeting like a very central sort of part of a city, whatever that city might be. And we're really trying to get people that are looking to actually move out into the suburbs. It's this kind of people who are looking to move from the middle of the city out into the suburbs on the outside. Have you found that this is a portion of your sort of audience that tends to be selling a home as well? The people that are looking to move from the inner city into the outer suburbs do tend to be selling as well from this. Like, it's a big move, it's a big lifestyle choice that they're making. So what we can do is target central, for example, this is just a screenshot I took from Google Ads. We could target central New York. And for example, here, if we were looking at Monroe Township, right, in the bottom portion here. I've never been to Monroe Township, but if we're targeting that area, you've been to Monroe Township? Is it nice? So people might actually be looking to move there. We could target central New York and only the keywords for moving to Monroe Township, right? Or buy condo, Monroe Township, apartments for sale, Monroe Township, homes for sale, Monroe Township. And the idea is we're not just appearing for buy homes in New York City or just buy homes, generally speaking. Because remember, that is going to be much more competitive than someone in New York looking for homes in Monroe Township. There's probably only going to be a handful of those people. So you could do one campaign for Monroe Township, another campaign for East Brunswick, another campaign for Bridgewater. Like you could pick your suburbs, pick the suburbs that you want to focus on because you know the market better than anyone else. Pick the suburbs that you think people are moving to, the suburbs you think are hot right now. Target the central city and look to get those people that are moving there, if that makes sense. So this is actually a very effective strategy, and I think, well, I thought I'd show it on the screen because it really could be beneficial. Yeah. Nice. Let's get a round of yeah. Let's get some applause for this strategy, eh? So that's 3 strategies essentially on the seller side that we can really look to, right? And I think that before we jump into the buyer side, I'd open it up for questions just to get an understanding for how we're sort of traveling so far, what kind of questions we might have on this seller side. Because the seller versus buyer side dilemma is a really big one to consider.
Raise your hands.
So, no problem, we can keep moving if not. But this sort of suburb-based strategy could be a really effective one for you. Depending, of course, I mean, in Boise, actually, Lisa, for example, is this moving from the city to the suburbs a phenomenon? Because the city feels like a bit of a suburb anyway. I found like it's. I wonder.
Yeah, I think for us, I think for any areas, right, it gets more expensive when you're in the city, and it starts to become less expensive when you're moving out. So I love this strategy. I love this strategy for all of you, and I think you need to all identify what are the move out places that are more affordable. That's where you're going to really capitalize on grabbing new clientele.
Yeah, exactly. A little anecdote as well is when I was leaving at the airport in Sydney, they said to me, "What's your final destination?" I said, "Boise." They said, "What country is that in?" I said, "It's in the US." And then I flew to the US and I landed in San Francisco as my first stop. And I was giving the guy my passport. And he said, "What's your final destination?" I said, "Boise." He said, "What country is that in?" I said, "It's in this country." I think. I mean, have I made some tremendous mistake here? And so I was telling people all along the way that I was really going to the US. And here I am. I'm glad to see it's worked out. Sorry, question.
Oliver, that strategy is really interesting with this particular market, and I guess some of it applies elsewhere. Most people moving here are coming from Southern California, for example. So could you take this same strategy, put that target in Los Angeles, and somehow get them to the suburbs of Boise?
For sure.
Yeah, like in my area, hold on. Wait. You can't talk without a microphone. Oh, sorry. Y'all in trouble now.
Really?
Go.
Good question though.
In my area, I've searched like where are people relocating from, and the majority is New York, New Jersey, California.
So other states, basically.
Right. So how would I hone into?
Yeah. So in that case, I mean, if you know, because theoretically you could target the whole country. You could target the whole world and just like the ads that I saw from Sydney, right? And just go sell my home, Boise, Idaho. And you could just be appearing anywhere, no matter where they are. But that could get expensive, or if there are certain places that convert at a lower rate than others. Like if you know that in this area a lot of people are moving from Southern California, instead of targeting Central Boise and then doing the suburbs and the rest of it, you could just target Southern California for anyone typing in "sell my home." Or actually, it would be move to Boise, Idaho. Exactly, relocate to Boise, Idaho, and like you could target just Southern California. And then if you start to realize that a lot of people maybe New York City are also doing the same thing, there tends to be a big influx, which could be totally outside of your control. Maybe some big influencer in New York has just posted a video about how amazing Boise is, and suddenly people in New York are considering it. You could then target ads there as well. But to begin with, just consider forget city versus suburbs. It could be state versus state. Like you could just target a certain state for people looking to move to your area. Now, the only reason, as I said, that you would pick one target area over another, there's no algorithmic reason. It's because you know that people from that area are moving. It's just purely based on your knowledge. Does that make sense? Does that help? Yeah, nice. Cool. Yep.
Oh, hold on.
We might just get.
And then get a referral fee, by the way. When they're going to move from California to Idaho or wherever they're going, make sure you hook them up with an agent and get a referral fee.
My question is more data questions again. So is there the best end? So like when they click on one of these things here, the extensions, whatever, is it best to go to a website, or are there specific categories like where they put their first name, last name, email address that you would limit it to in order to get more people to actually input information?
Yeah.
Is more better? Is less better?
It's a good point. So we have a lot of options as real estate agents. Not all industries. Again, I actually think that your industry is one of potentially the most complicated or one of the most tricky when it comes to Google Ads, Facebook ads, paid ads, because you have buyers, sellers, you have an MLS listing page, you have potentially just like an actual website that doesn't display all the listings. You have really a lot of options that a lot of businesses don't have. So what tends to be quite effective on the buyer side is sending people to the MLS, like the listings, right, and tracking leads for a listing. For the seller side, you have that option as well, but they've typed in, don't forget, sell my home, Boise, Idaho. So to now see a bunch of properties for sale isn't actually, there's a disconnect there. So potentially what could be really effective, all you want to do is basically convince this person that you are the person, you are the agent that they need, right? That could be with a landing page that has all the sales information, some great testimonials, maybe a video of you, hey, introducing yourself, and then just with an option for them to leave their details. The more details you ask for, address, whatever else, first name, last name, phone number, the less likely they are to convert. So usually it's like first name, last name, email, or phone number, like you've got to find a bit of a balance. But as a minimum, yeah, you would hope for either email or phone number, or ideally both. If you start asking for other things, they'll probably, which area in particular you focus on, what's your budget, are you looking for an apartment, or it's like you've just lost them. Yeah. The goal is to initiate the conversation and then to use your sales skills. That's really the goal. The goal of ads is not to get all that info. You can build that relationship and get that afterwards. It's to make it as easy as possible. So if you're targeting an area and saying, targeting someone looking to move to Monroe Township or Boise, Idaho, consider where you're sending them. I don't think it should be an MLS listings page, because that would make sense. But it should really be your website, and it should display you as Boise's leading real estate agent and the person to speak to for this particular offering. When it comes to, just as an anecdote, I think it's relevant, what we're moving in a direction of, and it's been happening for the past few years, and I think it's really, we're getting there now, is instead of just sending someone to your website, where it's the homepage, and it's the same website I would see if I came from Instagram or here or there, is to have like custom landing pages. It's beneficial for a few reasons. Now, the custom landing page wouldn't have a menu at the top, it wouldn't have a million distractions, it wouldn't have call or get in touch, or here's my Facebook profile. It'd just have one option, which is to contact you. And that can either be a phone call or an email submission, or if you just want to get email submissions, you can focus on that. But the idea is with a landing page to reduce distractions. I actually encourage you, I didn't include this in here, but do write that down, landing page, because I think it's worth considering. And the idea with a landing page is that if you get 1,000 users to your website, let's say the conversion rate is 2%. If you can get 1,000 users to a landing page, and if the conversion rate's just gone from 2 to 4 or 5%, everything just gets more cost effective. And we're talking about numbers and data, and like at scale, that really matters. So all businesses now are moving in this direction of using landing pages instead of just the most obvious answer, which is to send someone to your website. Right? So here it could be a specific seller-focused landing page explaining the benefits of going with you, explaining the millions of dollars you do in sales, the great results you've gotten for your clients, a whole page dedicated to just that. Because remember, someone who's visiting that page has specifically typed in sell or move to Boise, Idaho, or sell my home. Like, you know exactly the kind of person that's going to be seeing that page. And typically it's a page that's not even accessible from the menu of your website. It is just an ads landing page. Okay, so that's a bit of a hack into how that tends to work. And again, I didn't want to overwhelm you with information, but I think it's important for me to show you what's out there and like potential strategies that you can implement. Obviously then which how you build the landing page. Should I put in this font or that font? And how that actually looks is up to you. But showing you and explaining to you the options is really what I want to do, to demystify, as I said, the whole thing. Did you have another question, sorry? Oh, you do use landing pages?
So what I've done with my landing pages, I've created a landing page for Facebook, and what I've asked for just, the information that I need, like the name, email, or whatever, phone number, and then it goes directly either to not my website, it goes directly to my CRM or either HomeBot. And so that when they go into HomeBot, they see all the information of selling or buying, depending on if it's a buyer or seller, and it works out great.
Nice.
It really does.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, I'm trying to build my business page. So would you recommend putting landing pages on my business page?
What do you mean your business page, sorry?
Like my business web.
Oh, the website?
Well, not the website. Like, yes, my Google
okay.
business page.
So you want to build out your Google My Business page, you're getting more reviews, I imagine, getting
Right.
that pumping.
Right. Yeah, that's the.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm trying to do all of that.
So no is the answer. I wouldn't. The landing page is like it's an ads landing page.
Okay.
The idea is that because one day, hopefully, the business will be so big that you have leads coming in from
Amen.
everywhere. No, but really, if you have leads coming in from everywhere, the tracking can get a bit tricky. It's like, how much should I spend on ads this month? Oh, I don't know. Like, how many leads are we getting from ads?
Okay.
How many leads are coming from Facebook or whatever else? So you got to get to the point where you've got a landing page just for Google Ads. It's like a Google Ads landing page, and any leads that come into that form, you don't even have to ask the question. You know where they came from. Because sometimes Google's tracking will show you that you got 50 leads, but actually you got 60. Like it can get a bit messy with cookies and all sorts of things, especially as that's all changing this year. So I would say don't include the ads landing page in your Google My Business profile. Just put the website, like your homepage, in the Google My Business profile. Because that's organic traffic. That's free traffic. Your Google Ads traffic is costing you money. It's paid traffic.
Run. Here I go.
My
Well, it's it's a
oh
microphone.
God, my question. Sorry, I heard my voice and now I just.
No, it sounds great. We love it.
Sorry. My question is with the program that you offer. So if we have, I have a subdivision that's going to be coming up. And so I want to be able to target people in different areas that might want to move into this spot. So does your program or what you offer, do you actually cater to diving into who are the people that most likely will want to move to Middleton, Idaho or something like that? So is that also part of like your program and what you do with your consultations and stuff?
Well, it all comes part of it. In fact, like I do these one-on-one consultations. To be honest, they originally began as just Google Ads focused kind of consultations, but they've now met, because I actually, while my bread and butter is Google, I do a lot of Facebook, I do a lot of LinkedIn, I do pretty much everything now. So yeah, we can absolutely end up looking at that, and it's the sort of thing, it's all part of the same big picture, right? So being too siloed on Google Ads is actually not realistic to how a business works. Like you have so many options, you have so many things to consider. And as I said, for my own online program, Lisa found me with Facebook ads. Like there are certain platforms that are better for certain industries than others. So to answer the question, yes, absolutely. I think what you'll find, though, as I mentioned, the type of person looking to move, when it comes to keyword targeting, is actually not that important. Because if we've set the campaign up properly and we're only ever appearing and paying when someone has typed in move to Boise, Idaho, or sell my home in X or Y. Like, if you can be really specific about what we're paying for, the words, anyone, it could be an 18-year-old who's just won the lottery, it could be a retiree, it could be anyone. Like getting too niche on demographics is no longer really relevant when we're talking about keywords. It is when you're just projecting ads on Instagram and Facebook, because you've got to be cost effective with who you're going to show it to. You've got to think which demographic will probably convert at a higher rate. But with Google Ads, it's like, if they're typing it in, that's what we want. Who cares where they are or who they are or what sort of interest they have, what they like to watch on Netflix. they're literally looking for what we're offering. Cool, let's just take that, and that's all we need to know. So it can be a little bit more straightforward, I think, sometimes with keyword targeting, if that answers the question. But yeah, absolutely. Feel free to talk to me afterwards about that sort of thing. So I'll jump into now buyer-side lead strategies. So we just looked at 3 seller-side strategies. These are the buyer-side lead strategies. Now, honestly, if I had $1,000 to start advertising for my real estate agency tomorrow, I would actually focus on buyer-side lead strategies. The reason is, as I said, seller-side can get really competitive. Everyone wants sellers, obviously, but I think if we remember, like up to 40% of buyers are selling a home anyway, or will be selling a home. So if we can get really cost-effective leads on the buyer side, not only will many of them end up selling their homes anyway, but it'll probably help you to get sellers in every other dimension that you're looking to get sellers, because you can say, hey, look at all these buyers I've got. And I think with a limited resource, which is what any business has, you're trying to get as many leads as possible for a limited resource, focusing on buyers can be a really cost-effective way to do this. So the first one is just simply targeting, sort of like what we looked at before, targeting the whole country for anyone looking to buy a property in your area, right? Or you can target, theoretically, you could actually target the whole world. Because if they're looking to buy a property in Boise, it doesn't matter if they're in Australia or in New York or in Mexico, as I said. However, we've got to put some sort of lid on it, otherwise we could blow our budget in 10 minutes. So I usually think targeting the whole country for anyone looking to buy a property in your city. So city obviously would just be Boise townhomes for sale, or Boise apartments for sale, Boise condos for sale. This is the first strategy. It's simple, it's probably the entry point. And I really do think actually for most of us in the room, this is the way to go, okay? It's dead simple, we target the whole country, anyone looking for a property for sale in your area. So just want to make sure that that one is ingested. We're going to negative out a few things like rentals, renting, just to ensure that anyone looking to rent a property in Boise is not seeing our ads, because we don't want to be paying for that. Okay? And where are we going to send these people? This is the sort of person that we would actually send to your MLS listings page. Maybe we could even, what I've seen is quite effective, is predefining, you can search. Instead of just doing listings in Idaho, you could do a search for Boise. Send them to that search page. So it's already loaded as Boise when they click on it. So they're not going to type in buy a property in Boise and see now all the homes available in Idaho. They're going to type in buy a property in Boise, and they're going to see the properties for sale in Boise, because you've done that search for them, and that's the link you've used in the ads. So this is the first strategy. Any kind of thoughts? I'm going to jump into a little bit more of an advanced version of this next. Just again, so you see what's out there and you know what's available to you. Also, it's a good one here. So she was asking about the whole landing page conversation we just had. So that was more on the seller side. Reason being is that sending people to a listings page who are looking to sell their property specifically isn't so relevant. But here, I don't think we really need a landing page for the buyers. Exactly, because they're looking to buy a property. Sending them to a landing page that says, buy your property with me, is also a bit annoying, because they just want to see the properties. Yeah. They could find a property they like and contact you by proxy anyway through that property. So the landing page thing was really about that seller side, because you kind of can't send them to a listings page, like a property listings page, which again is a little bit more of a barrier to entry for the whole seller side leads thing. I just think if I was to get started tomorrow, I would be focusing on this. It's the easiest entry point, and if we're really sure that all we're paying for are people looking to buy properties in our city, then that's great. So I'm going to jump now to a little bit more of an advanced version of this. So on the one hand, we would have our that same campaign that we just mentioned, right? So we would target the whole country, anyone looking to buy a property in Boise. Now the thing is, there are going to be people that are still super relevant to us that are not typing in buy property Boise. So what's an example of a search very similar to that, slightly different, that kind of person might be typing in? Any thoughts? Well, first of all, what if they just don't mention Boise? What if they're down the road and they're just looking to buy a home near me, for example? With the first strategy that I just covered, with this one, we just wouldn't appear at all for those kinds of people, which again isn't the end of the world. We have to pick and choose our battles. But if someone's typing in buy property near me and they live here already, we wouldn't appear for them with this strategy. And this is the most recommended one. This is the one that real estate agents tend to talk about online. And marketing agencies tend to use this one. But I'm explaining this one because I think that there's a bit of a gap left. So what we could have in this case is a second campaign. So we've got 2 campaigns running now. But instead of targeting the whole country, we just target the local area. So now you've got 2 campaigns running at the same time. This is how things can develop and strategies can be formed. So you've got anyone looking to buy a home in Boise, targeting the whole country, because obviously that's super relevant. But let's layer that with a really targeted strategy for the local area, for people just looking to buy a home or to buy an apartment. And the reason why I've said that is if we target the whole country for people looking to just buy a home, well, what's going to happen? We've got people in New York City looking to buy a home near me, now seeing our ads for a real estate agency in Boise, Idaho. Like, suddenly it's not relevant. Suddenly we're wasting money. And this happens all the time. So this is the approach for any service-based business that I run. If I get a new client, if it's a doctor, a dentist, it's literally an approach like this. I get people, regardless of where they are, basically, looking for the service in that area. If they type in, dentist Boise, Idaho, or real estate agent Boise, Idaho, then we're appearing. And then I go really niche just on the area, and I get the more generic people who haven't specified the suburb or the town or the city, because for them it's maybe just too obvious. Like, they're already there, so they're saying, buy a property near me. So you're covering all your bases with this approach. Does that make sense? I don't want to get too advanced. I just think it's a really great strategy. And if you're, regardless of what you're doing, like, I'm not sure, does anyone in the house actually have a side hustle, or is real estate agent, like, anyone doing anything outside of realty? Like, oh, nice, yeah, exactly. So I work, as I said, work with lots of dentists, and like, this strategy can be applied for your real estate business or for really any other kind of business that you're offering. Typically for a service-based business. I would never do this for an e-commerce business. Lisa's got to run some laps together.
So this strategy you're talking about, campaign 1, campaign 2,
Yep.
is this a layered strategy? So they first type in buy home Boise, and then it layers it to the second campaign?
So there are 2 campaigns running at the same, it's a good question, 2 campaigns running at the same time, but only one ad will ever show, right? So you can never with Google have 2 ads appearing at the top, or you can never be charged for both campaigns at the same time. So what will happen is both are eligible to cause your ad to appear. So it'll be one or the other. So if someone in Boise, Idaho types in buy property Boise, then that'll be an ad that's activated from the first campaign. But if they're in New York typing in buy property Boise, again, first campaign. But if they're local, super local, and they're typing in buy property near me, the first campaign is ignored. It doesn't cost us a thing. It's just not relevant. So it's just charging us for the second campaign. So the idea is you have 2 campaigns. It does cost you more because if you consider you have to set a budget per campaign, right? But it's not costing us more in the sense of we're not paying double for the same click because there's no overlap.
I'm going to ask a question real quick too. So how many, my crazy brain's like, let's do 10 campaigns. How many campaigns do you do?
Yeah, just 2.
Just 2.
Yeah.
You heard it, people. 2.
10 campaigns, it's all about strategy. 10 campaigns is, it's not like let's add more campaigns and we'll appear more often and get more leads.
Yeah.
That's actually how you sort of end up wasting your money. It's like we've got 2 campaigns. We're now covering the whole of the US for anyone really relevant to us. That's great. Let's just make sure those 2 campaigns are working really well. Dial in the landing page or wherever else they're going, and that's great. And maybe it gets to a point, as I said, if you live, I mean, Boise is a pretty small place, but somewhere even smaller, somewhere so small that the volume of people typing in buy property in, I don't know, give me a really small US suburb somewhere that Seymour, Indiana. Okay. Buy property, Seymour, Indiana. Mm-hmm. Ontario? Mm-hmm. Oregon. I've heard of that though. That's kind of big, no? Oh, it's small, okay. But so if the place is so small that there's just not enough volume for it, of people clicking for Google to charge you your full daily budget, then you'll just appear every time that someone types that in, and maybe the most you can spend for your area is $20 per day, and no matter how much you're trying to get Google to spend more, it just won't spend more. Then you go, great, my Google Ads budget's $20 per day. Now at least that's efficient. What else can I do with my money? Facebook ads, email campaigns, whatever. But the goal is not to just push as many campaigns out there and get it all. It's like, let's just do the most effective thing, understand the role of Google Ads in our broader marketing picture, right? The funnel that we looked at, and that's that. And then focus on the million other things that you can focus on as a business owner.
Yeah, we got another question here, and I want to just plug in really quick. Remember our Outcomes and Levers Academy? Yeah, this is our outcomes and our levers. You got the 3 levers. Pull the levers, change the levers, but don't add more outcomes and levers, right? No more shiny things. Okay, Jen's got a question.
So can you direct them not to a website? Like if you don't have a website, is it pointless to run Google Ads? Like you can't really direct them to, there's my Instagram, here's my Google business page. Do you need a website? Is my question.
Yeah, in essence, yeah, basically. And keep in mind though, that website can be a one-pager. Like it shouldn't be the sort of thing that costs us 20 grand to build and takes 3 months. Like it can just be a one-pager that explains everything. It should be a good one-pager if it is. But basically you do need a website, because keep in mind, it's all about this idea of the user experience. Imagine if I've just typed in buy a home in Boise. So you know that I'm relevant to you, I'm looking to buy a home in Boise. And now I click on an ad and it takes me to your Instagram profile where I'm seeing content of, and to be fair, the content could be you talking about some amazing deals you've gotten recently and all sorts of fantastic things. But now I'm on a YouTube, now I'm on an Instagram reel, all I want to know is how to get in touch, and it's like, oh, I go click in the bio, like just barriers. I mean, and again, I'm looking to buy a property. What are the properties available? Let me see, I want to see them. That's what I'm looking for. It's not your Instagram profile or your YouTube profile or Google My Business. It's about understanding the connection of what they've searched for and what they're going to see next. And that's why we talked about like a landing page, but here we're talking about just showing the MLS listings with a predefined search for that area.
Am I not loud? Damn it.
Nope, closer to the face though, it's okay.
So,
Zoom needs to hear you.
you said that you do ads, not just on Google, but for Facebook and other resources. What my question is I'm wondering, would it be beneficial for us to only have a Facebook business page, or is it better for us to have an actual personal Facebook page, or should we have both and we're running things on both, or how would you utilize that strategy for real estate?
That's a good question. So you mean like having the agency as a page versus your own personal?
No, so it would be like, so it would be like Crystal Sells Idaho, like my regular page where I can just post stuff, but then I know on Facebook they actually have one where you have an actual you sign it up as a business page. Is that correct? Am I not right?
Well, because you could just set your Crystal Sells in Idaho page, like your real estate agent page, to be a business profile, no? Right? And then.
And a personal page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, your personal. Okay, yeah. So if you've got your personal page, like actually just your personal Facebook, Instagram, I wouldn't really do any business stuff with that. But then if you've got your real estate agent personal page, it's not. I just say personal because that I would consider separate to the agency's page, right? So you've got your agent page and your agency page. Let's ignore personal. No one should see the personal except family and friends. Yeah. But I think to answer, you can just set your agent page to be a business profile, basically, which means you can include other information. People can get in touch with you. Facebook treats it differently than how it treats personal pages. Totally up to you if you want to have an agency versus an agent page. Depends on the size of your agency, I think. But there's a lot to be said for building a strong personal brand. People want to connect with you more than they want to connect with this brand name. And so I think posting great videos, getting a bit personal, you're looking for someone to sell your home. That's your biggest asset. I think that, in my opinion, having a really strong personal brand, and I say personal brand because it wouldn't be like your personal page, it would be the agent page, is a great option. Does that help? Because I think maybe just the distinction is understanding that you can set the personal, like your agent page, as an actual business profile. Like Facebook labels it as a business, basically. Or if you're a musician, you can set it to be a musician, if you're, whatever your kind of vertical is. But once you define it as like a business profile, you get access to certain other benefits that others don't. And certain data understandings of how many people visited your page. You can see that all in the business manager of Facebook.
On the business side, right?
Yeah, only on the business side.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's just about understanding what you mean by the business side, though. Because do you mean like running an agency Facebook profile?
They just had her advise, whoever advised her originally, had her make her Crystal Sells Idaho page not a business page, so not as a business. They wanted her to have it as more of a personal page. Yeah, and then create another business page. It's pretty much a lot of work, people, right? Okay, so what you really need to do is have your personal, like Lisa Bogdan Bingley, that's my personal page, right? Then you have your business page, whatever that's going to be. Then you have so much more access to more data that you need. You're able to run ads. You can hook it to Rate My Agent. There's a lot of other benefits that you get by doing that. And then what you do is when you post on that business page, just share it to your personal. So then all your friends and whoever follows you from your personal, you start to drive them over to your business page.
Yeah.
Keep it simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're overcomplicating. Okay, we'll go here, then here.
Quick question. I don't know if you answered this. I know you said if you would invest if you were starting out $1,000 into the ads. What are the return, the ROI? I mean, what are you seeing that people are getting from that?
Great question, because that brings me. I paid you to ask that because here we are.
Love it.
What sort of budget do I need? It is a really good question. I used the $1,000 as an example. That's just if I had $1,000. But if I had $1 million in the bank, I'd probably spend more than $1,000. That was just an example. But in a second, I'm going to get to properly answering this with an understanding of how many leads might we expect. Okay. We got it. Okay. Nice. So let's actually answer this question. What sort of budget? What sort of results? What can we expect? And it's a really tricky question to answer, to be honest, because there's so many variables. It's your location, it's your market, first of all. There's enough complication there to last a lifetime. Then it's your landing page. How good's your landing page? There's a lot going on, but I think we can use a certain sort of amount of assumptions to make progress on this question. So let's assume a conversion rate of 1%. Conversion rate, I'm referring to the amount of people that click on your ad versus the amount of people that become a lead. Seller or buyer, let's ignore that for a second. Let's just talk about conversion rate. So we've got 1% of people. Let's say it's $15 for a buyer side lead, actually. So we will focus on buyer side for the purpose of the example, sorry. So imagine we spend $100 a month. We're talking at these rates of 80 leads a year, 80 potential buyers per year. It's really low. Like many of the leads might not even respond to you. Like, as you know, when we're talking about these kinds of figures, which I think we can bank on a few of these figures, assuming it's all set up properly and really well, $100 a month is very low. As you know, many of these leads actually aren't valuable. Some of them, however, might be gold. Now, we want to get enough leads that these kinds of averages hold true. If we only get 80 leads, they might all be garbage, right? So it's like we can't just say, oh, 30% of leads are going to be great. 24 leads or whatever it is will be fantastic out of that 80. We need enough volume that the statistics kind of make the whole thing worth it. So if we up that to $500 a month, which I think really would be your absolute minimum if you were considering getting started with Google advertising, we're talking about $400 per year. You can maybe begin at this point to get an understanding for who's better, who's worse. But particularly when we're getting sort of $800 a year, right, at $1,000 a month, and this is back to that point of 1,000. So at these rates, for $1,000 a month, that's $12,000 a year. You'd be getting something like 800 leads per year. This is where it's a certain volume of leads at this point. You need systems. You need a proper CRM system, a proper understanding of reaching out to these people, maybe some follow-up actions, maybe some email marketing systems that are going to continue to engage them over time. Because as you get more and more leads, if you don't have all of those processes totally dialed in, it's, the wheels sort of start to fall off. And this is regardless of what you're doing, really. Like I was talking to Steph earlier about podcasting, and then sort of some great lead generation that she's doing there. It's a similar story, regardless of the industry. We're talking about how many leads are we getting, how are we handling them as we go. Maybe just.
I've been looking into a new CRM system. Are there any website CRM systems that you find work better with Google than others?
It's very different market in Australia on this point, I must say. I have heard, there's one geek, have you heard of this one? Real Geeks, actually, exactly. I've heard a lot about Real Geeks, particularly with Google Ads, that tends to work quite well. Does that answer the question? I've really read a lot about. Oh, okay. Have you heard good things? Okay, nice. They should really give me a commission for that or something, surely. But I've never actually used Real Geeks, I must say, but I just in the research that I was doing into your industry in particular, I read a lot about this, about Real Geeks. And there were a few platforms that tended to be better than others. But I think, in fact, it's a really good question, because whichever platform you're using, not only for your website, but also for how you engage leads ongoing, will be really impactful for how the entire virtual process kind of works for you.
Mm-hmm. And I have to say, everybody's brain works so differently. So what works for a CRM for one person is not going to work for another person. It has to make sense to the way that your brain takes the data in and goes out. So just make sure. I mean, the best CRM is the one that you will use. That's very true, and it's going to be different for everybody. So research, watch some tutorials, see if it makes sense to you so that you will actually use it and not just pay for it.
Yep. Quickly looking at $1,500 per month, again, using the same numbers, we're talking about 1,200 leads a year. You really might start to see some results here. Probably might need to start to consider some other people helping you. At about $3,000 a month, we're really hoping at this point you're building a team. You're kind of expanding. You've got people working for you. Like, this is where we want to be moving towards. But you're not just going to start tomorrow at $3,000 a month. I wouldn't even do that, even if an enormous business came to me and said, "We've got, $10,000 a month to spend." I probably wouldn't start at $10,000. I'd start at $2,000. Dial everything in, work on the search terms, a few of those other things we looked at earlier, and increase the budget once I was confident that things were in place. The landing page was working, because otherwise you can easily waste money. You can very easily waste money with these sorts of things. You've got to be very careful. As you know, yeah. So, $10,000 a month, that's the end goal. We're talking about 8,000 leads a year. Now we're killing it, basically. So I want to have a quick comment here. Oh yes, excuse me. Sorry. Remember, these are just examples. These are certain estimates. You have to estimate a certain number of figures before you can begin to plan out budgets. There's always going to be a bit of inefficiency and some wastage as you make these kinds of estimates. But I think these estimates are really not far off. So I'm going to jump to the next slide. So what we've just covered are some seller-side strategies, a couple of buyer-side lead strategies. Now, my hope now isn't that you have the tools to be able to go and click your way into launching a campaign, because actually where to click and if I should untick this setting and tick on that setting, we could spend the next 6 hours just doing that. This is to show you what's possible, so you can actually make the decision as to whether or not this is something you want to incorporate into your lead generation strategy or into your business. Because half of it, as we've established, is just the barrier to entry of even knowing what the options are, is the biggest problem. Great. So I wanted to jump in now, having looked at those things, making a quick comment on retargeting, just to see if we all kind of have heard of this process before. Retargeting is when we basically take anyone who's visited your website or engaged with you on Instagram or Facebook or even viewed your videos on YouTube, and we can, now that they're in our funnel, because they've discovered us somehow, we can re-engage them and keep showing them content or keep showing them ads. So the idea is you would create an audience specifically about Google Ads. In fact, who's done this for their Facebook ads with the pixel? Yeah, a little bit maybe? Okay. So if you're running Facebook ads, which everyone in the house basically said that they were doing, I would 100% be considering some form of retargeting. And that's just where you have that pixel. You might have heard of the pixel. It's where the pixels on your website, and all that means is that anyone who visits the website is suddenly, categorized as a website visitor by Facebook, and you can then show them content. Maybe you want to show them the same content as you're showing anyone who hasn't heard of you, but even better is when you've got your top of funnel, like you're running your ads basically to people who have never heard of you before. They come, they visit your website, and now they're seeing new ads, different type of content, because they know who you are. Suddenly it's a little bit more personal. You can kind of get away with a different type of content, basically. So the same principles can be applied to Facebook and Instagram. We can also do it on Google, right? So we can run YouTube campaigns specifically for someone who's visited the website. We can run display campaigns, which, as I said, are those banner ads. RLSA just means remarketing lists for search ads. It's basically saying anyone who's typing in, even if it's sell my property in Boise, we can specify that we're willing to spend more, for example, if they've already visited the website. So it's about using the tools at our disposal. And I think remarketing, I didn't want to get too deep in remarketing, but it is actually something that once we've been running some ads for a little while, we've got website traffic, we would consider as a step 2. Because it's like we've dialed in, we know how we're getting top of funnel traffic, how do we now re-engage them? But one has to come before the other here, right? So I thought I'd just make a quick comment on retargeting. Any thoughts on that? Because what I'm about to jump into is specifically just a bit of insight into like an organic content strategy with YouTube, and I think it will be really beneficial. But just on the Google ads and retargeting, any thoughts or kind of questions? We can have more time for questions later, but I just thought I'd open it up before jumping in. No problem. So I wanted to talk about YouTube because, again, I've tailored this really for real estate. Typically in a Google Ads presentation, I wouldn't actually I wouldn't even speak about organic content on YouTube. I wouldn't really speak about organic content on anything. But again, the shackles of Google have actually been removed from me, so I can kind of get into the weeds a little bit as to what really would benefit you. And here, it's completely free, right? This is a really low-hanging fruit, if I were you guys. So is anyone already posting organic content on YouTube, just as you probably are on Instagram? Yeah, a little bit? Can I get a show of hands, actually? Who's doing YouTube? Just want to see. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You are as well. Nice. 5 of us. 5 of us in the room are doing YouTube. I really think it's a big opportunity, something we should all consider tapping into. As real estate agents, I wouldn't be saying this to a room full of dentists or any other industry. I don't know if I'd watch that content, personally. I don't know if anyone would. Now, first of all, a few myths. You don't need a large following, right? You don't need expensive equipment. You can use your phone. You might think you don't have time. You have nothing to share. It only generates buyers, not sellers, and you might think you're too late. Like, these myths really aren't true. I actually think that if I was a real estate agent in Boise, I would focus on nailing my organic content before I even started running ads. I would run ads, but I would nail that first. The reason is it's free. It's going to just work away in the background. You post a YouTube video today, it'll still be up there in a year. Like, people can still discover it and get in touch with you, right? So why would you do this? You can create relationships really at scale. So you can show your expertise. You can leverage time and income. Again, it's free. It's completely free to be doing this. You can convert leads at a higher rate because you can put up a 30-minute video, which is arguably much more engaging than your text ad leading to a landing page, right? Someone fully watching your video. There's a ranking authority, which I'll cover in the next slide or two. And it's a real opportunity. I actually think that this is a big opportunity for realtors. You want to become the expert for real estate in your area, and I think this is a great way to do this. So this is what I meant by ranking. When you type in, and this is literally me typing this in on Google, when you type in a question or some sort of prompt or anything, like YouTube videos are appearing in Google search results. So we can pay for text ads, or we can just have really great YouTube videos. Or ideally, actually, we've got both. So this is just to show you that there is a certain authority that comes with it. So there's really infinite content ideas here. We've got pros and cons of living in Boise. What does 500 grand get you in Boise? What does 750? You can go up and just do each incremental amount of money. Monthly market updates, like there should be no shortage of topics that you could theoretically make your video about. How it might look, a video, I thought I'd show this as well, this could be really helpful, is just a quick hook at the beginning, a call to action, that's the CTA, which might be essentially once you've hooked them, what does 500 grand get you in Boise, Idaho? I'm going to tell you why in this. I'm going to tell you how, like exactly what that gets you in this video. Before I do that though, I am Boise's leading real estate agent and blah, 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 blah. You need to get in touch with me. Now, let's dive right in. This is how these videos tend to begin. So it's establishing the fact that you're an authority on the matter. It's basically putting it in an entertaining way, nice, short, and succinct before giving them the content that they've actually asked for. And then you're going to recap at the end after a bit of an intro, a body, like the entirety of the video. You're going to recap at the end that that's really what you do. You've given them this great video, but you actually are the person to speak to if they want to learn more. No pressure, of course. And you put up 10, 15 videos like that over time. It just helps to build out that online profile. And if you're already doing it on Instagram, it's the same idea. However, I think YouTube is really coming up, particularly. Has anyone seen these YouTube shorts? The short videos. Everyone's adding this mindless scroll feature to their platforms. It's almost a shame, but we love them, so not such a bad thing. It's really becoming a big kind of component of brands' organic content strategies. And I think as local brands here, we have an opportunity to capitalize on this. And I wasn't, originally going to include this in the presentation, but I actually think truly it's a low-hanging fruit, something you should really be considering. So I wanted to cover two things, the thumbnail and the title of your video. First of all, with the thumbnail, a study has shown that basically if your video has a face in its thumbnail, we're talking about a 30% higher click-through rate. By that, I'm referring to ones like this. So these are some searches I made earlier again. Like you end up with these kind of quirky thumbnails, which you probably would have seen, where we've got a bit of text, some visual information, and always include your face. Okay? A few principles regarding the thumbnail. The title as well should really be a response to your user's question. So 5 things you need to know, what to know before moving to Boise, Idaho. Don't move to Denver if you can't handle these 10 things. Like it's all becoming a bit of a game, really. It's like how to get someone to click the most amount of times possible. I actually thought when I typed in this Boise, Idaho one, I thought maybe I was almost worried that like this guy would be in the audience or something. And he'd sue me for putting his face on the screen. However, like it's the same idea, and there would have been a few videos below his from other realtors as well. Some realtors are starting to catch on to this. A few of us in the room mentioned we'd already started doing some YouTube. But it's a real opportunity, I think, to be considered. If I had time to kill at home, or not even if I had time to kill, I would just include this into my content strategy. Yep. Do we need Lisa? The mic? I could take it off you.
Go, Cynthia.
So with the YouTube videos, how long should they be? Because sometimes I can get long-winded, and I don't want to lose the audience, right? So
I mean, how entertaining are you? It's a question like...
very entertaining.
Not gonna lie, it's pretty entertaining.
It's a good question. There are videos out there that are 45 minutes long. It's probably a bit long. There are videos out there that are 3 minutes long. I would say there's no rule. There's no hard and fast rule. How deep is the topic? How long can you talk about it for without losing the audience's interest? And if you're bored making it, it'll probably be boring to watch as well. So try and keep it fun, keep it engaging.
You'd mentioned that it's like similar to like Instagram, like the Instagram Reels. Is that what you're referring to? So then when you're doing an Instagram Reel, is that something that you would say you give a link to your YouTube? Or you just do a little snippet that gets you to YouTube to watch the longer
So I wouldn't
version?
really be it's a really good question. I wouldn't be linking people from your Instagram to your YouTube. I would just consider them as two separate things. Exactly. But in theory, like what I'll show you in a second is that you shouldn't have to make an Instagram Reel and then go over here and make a YouTube video as well. We want to get to a point where we can streamline this whole ridiculous content creation process that has been forced upon us by basically making one long video, chopping it down into Reels and YouTube Shorts and all sorts of other things. It's like we're saving time. You've got homes to sell. It's not, you didn't.
Use Instagram, they're going to find that same content and talk about the same thing at lunch with the person's like, oh yeah, I saw that on Instagram. I
Yeah,
saw
exactly.
That. Okay.
And then maybe they go, oh, let's see if she's got an Instagram profile. And they type your name in. And they're all just top of funnel content strategies.
Perfect.
It's about how do we find totally new people that have never heard of us before. And like moving to Boise, Idaho into YouTube is becoming a very popular, instead of just moving to Boise on Google search, I actually might be more inclined to watch a video. Like I was literally doing this from Sydney to get an understanding of the landscape. Obviously I'd never been here before. I just didn't even know I had to check the weather. I've been walking around in my puffer jacket, I've been freezing cold. I was trying to get a feel for where I was going. And I think a lot of people that are considering a move might be more inclined to watch a YouTube video before getting in touch with you as a real estate agent. That's kind of a little bit further down, right? But consider yourself a personal brand where you have to have this entire funnel incorporated into your thoughts about how people are actually engaging with you. And unfortunately, or maybe fortunately, it's a very long sales cycle. So they find you organically, they become an email lead, you engage them for months. You have to be ready for this long-term kind of commitment to this relationship with this person. Does that help? Yeah, I'm going to show you in a second how we might approach this as well. Now, okay, this is niche, but it's actually an enormous hack. It's something I showed Steph yesterday. When you're uploading a video, I thought I'd include this because you actually won't find this anywhere else. When you're uploading a video to YouTube, consider it a website in and of itself. You know how Google's reading the website and determining how relevant it is to the user? It's doing the exact same thing with your video. Not only the title and description are read by Google, but like they're even analyzing the content, converting your speech into text, seeing if they can link that with how relevant it is to the user. One thing you have to upload when you're uploading a video, or you don't have to, it's an option, are these tags. And I've put the screenshot here. So you have the option to put a few words or a word, put a comma, and add another one. Each of these is going to be a tag. So you would typically people don't even know about this feature, but it's a really helpful way of getting Google to rank you higher up. And it's a bit untapped. That's why I thought I'd include it. So without getting too into the weeds, there is a hack to how you can get the best tags and the best and understand the tags that your competitors have used. And so the way to do that is we're going to find a top-ranking video, right? So you type in whatever you're really looking to make your own video about. There's a chance that others have already made that video, or a similar one, at least. You go onto the page. If you can right-click, and I thought I'd give you the screenshot of, like, I was just doing this last night. You're going to right-click View Page Source, and it'll very simply open up a page full of code, essentially. But this is what I've used this strategy with a lot of big clients, YouTube content. If you then Command F and you look for keywords, you literally get given a list of all of the tags that that particular person used when uploading their video. And so you could literally copy-paste all of those into your own video and save months of work hoping to rank highly, by the gods of Google. So I thought I'd include this. There's a bit of value in that, no? Surely. I mean, yeah, okay, nice. I was worried. I almost skipped these slides. I thought this is geeky. This is the good stuff, though. Come on, exactly. Exactly, yeah. So this is the hack that we need. So right-click, View Page Source, check out keywords. For many videos, you'll find that they don't even have any because they don't know about the feature. But for proper, people that know what they're doing with content, they definitely have them. And you can pick from the top 3, 4, 5 videos, pick the keywords you want, make your own list. Just copy-paste it into the tags area, and you've got instantly hundreds of keywords. Yeah, it's really good. Yeah. Lisa's getting some miles up.
My steps.
We forget when we start.
In the titles, I try to use all the real estate that I'm given, like all the characters, all the spaces. So I think about what people are going to type in Google and to find this content. And then I literally don't make a really pretty title. I just kind of put, I mean, it makes sense, but I try to put all the things what would I type if I'm trying to find this content? And I do the same thing in the description. Is that still, I was taught that
It's good.
multiple years
Yeah.
ago, but is that still, because I'm not seeing titles with long tail keywords anymore, really?
Yeah, it's a good point. It's sort of, you can include that in the description, maybe down below. It's, to be honest though, it's a little bit out of fashion. I think if we look at these examples, it's more like get a certain format where you have, for example, like I actually think you could do better than this first one. This one, I don't mind, the second one, and the bottom one's okay as well. But I would do a certain format that's like, try to make your video title as relevant as possible, where it doesn't need to match word for word what they could possibly be typing in. I would do something like, what to know before moving to Boise, Idaho, then that vertical line, that separator, and then, October 2023, and then another separator, and like moving to Boise, Idaho, or some sort of formula that actually you can apply to all of your videos that keeps it looking schmick and keeps it looking really pretty. Clean and simple. I wouldn't worry about making the world's longest title, because again, I think Google's actually smarter than that. Like it's all this idea of trying to trick the system. It's not actually, they've just gone beyond that. And while that might have been relevant a few years ago, I think now it's more important to have a simple title that, again, it should reflect what they've typed in, but not necessarily the length of a paragraph. Yeah.
I would say too, when I read that first one, like you're saying, what to know before moving to Boise, Idaho, and then, but what is the video about? Like that gives me like a little bit of a lead in, but it leaves me not really understanding what I'm clicking on. So there'd be some better clarity there for what that video is. Is that
exactly? And look, this is the same search. Look, it's the exact same search. Moving to Boise, moving to San Diego, Denver. Just the people have framed their titles in 3 different ways. It shows you how many possibilities there are. I quite like the third one because I actually think it's kind of clickbaity. It's like, do not move to Denver. I mean, he's a real estate agent in Denver, and he's telling you, do not move to Denver unless you can handle these 10 things. You know, it's like, oh, can I handle those 10 things? I better click on those and see. So you can get creative with the titles. Rather than just moving to Boise, April 2024, you're saying the same thing with, don't move to Boise unless you can handle these 10 things, October 2024. Like, I like that idea of including a date, maybe a bit of a question, but get creative with it. Again, like, what I would like is to see you get to the point where you're actually uploading a fair few videos, and you can test all these things out, and hopefully have fun with it, because it really should be fun. Now here, I was answering a question that we had here. This idea of taking like a long video and subdividing it. So for better or worse, AI is like taking over everything that's happening online at the moment. Opus Clip is just an example of a platform you can use. So let's say you have, someone let their, oh, that was Ross. What's he doing back there? He's having a party.
he also had actually come up and said, they need to use Opus. And I was like, okay, tell them when you get up on stage. And then Oliver's already got it.
Again, look, 0 affiliate fees going on here. I just think it's a good platform. Unfortunately, I should have prepared better, absolutely. But ideally, what we'd have here is a situation where you've got your 20-minute video, let's say on YouTube. It's you talking to the camera, interspersed with shots of some properties, maybe some interviews that you're doing, and like you've made some fun piece of content. You put the whole thing, you just copy and paste the link, the YouTube link, into this platform. It will literally give you 10 clips, or as many as you want really, short vertical format clips ready to be uploaded onto Instagram or YouTube Shorts or whatever else. So again, it's like, don't waste time thinking, oh, now I've got to make YouTube content. Now I've got to make Instagram content. Streamline all this stuff. No one's expecting you to be the world's best content creator and have, you've got actual work to do. This should just, this should really just be something that's happening, and you maybe have to dedicate a day a month or an afternoon every couple of weeks or something like that to your content. But I think if I was a realtor, which is an extremely personal brand-based industry, as I said, it's a big decision for me to trust you to sell my home. Why you? Why not them? I'd be just building that personal brand like a machine. And these sorts of tools can help with that. Right? So a bit of a plan of action. I think you should really commit to doing X number of videos per month. And that could be 1 video per month to begin with. Ideally, 1 video per month is 12 videos a year. That's not a huge commitment, but it's 12 more videos than you currently have. That's pretty good. A couple of years, you got 24 videos. Again, nothing good ever happened without compound interest. Like I think just a little commitment once a month can really take you further. Commit to making a video a month to begin with. If I was a real estate agent, though, I actually would commit to more than one a month. I would treat this as a pretty big part of the strategy. You can emphasize property tours, relocation, market reports, seller-specific videos. For listing generation, pick the topics. Have fun with picking your topics. Like we already saw, you can do what does 500 grand get you? What does 750 grand get you? What does 1,000 grand? What does 1 million get you? These are all different searches that different users would be making because my budget is different to your budget. And so the video I want to watch is different to the video you want to watch. So you can get super specific. You can talk about certain suburbs in Boise versus other suburbs. You could talk about the various content ideas. You could literally ask ChatGPT to give you 1,000 content ideas, and it would.
Hold on. Who's talking? Okay.
So does YouTube, like, if you do your, let's say for Facebook, you have your Facebook personal profile, and then you have your business page.
Yeah.
So does YouTube, let's say if I had YouTube videos from our family, is there a separation between a personal YouTube, a business, or just different channels? Okay.
Yeah, you'd want to make sure that your YouTube, your realtor page is, it's a separate channel to your personal family videos and things.
But there's not a designation of business versus personal on YouTube.
Oh no, I think you would
just
just.
a channel.
No, it's just a different channel. Yeah. It's a good point though. It'd be pretty funny if I was watching a video about why to move to Boise, and the next video that popped up was you and your family maybe having a great time in Boise. To be fair.
Well, yeah, that could work.
It could work, yes.
Yeah, it could work really well.
Quick question about that. So if you already have a YouTube channel and you do have some traffic that has gone through that channel, but it's kind of a mix of everything you've done over the past, 10, 20 years, or whenever YouTube started, would you suggest starting a brand new channel that has zero?
Well, was it as a real estate agent, the previous content?
No, family, other types of businesses, podcasting, like tons
Look, you could consider, depends how engaged it is. If that one has 10 followers and your new one would have 0 followers, I'd probably just,
Like how many followers would you say is a good amount that you would not start over?
That I would not start over. Again, though, keep in mind
1,000,
the followers, I actually would, it's sort of...
It doesn't matter, I guess.
Yeah, I wouldn't frame the question like that, because let's say you have 1,000 followers of people who are watching you and your family, or whatever videos you've been posting that have nothing to do with real estate in Boise. Why would they even help you at all in the new pursuit?
Right.
So I would actually just make sure, start fresh if you have to, but you are a real estate agent. This is your real estate agent channel. Just as your Instagram profile, you're not posting like selfies at Chipotle alongside videos of beautiful homes that you have for sale. Like you've got to keep it, what do I want to see? It's all about the audience and what you want to be kind of known for. So I wouldn't worry about how many followers should I have or should I not have. But again, if it's a small enough amount of followers that creating a new profile is actually just another task to do, that I wouldn't worry. I would actually just keep going with that profile. But if you have 10,000 engaged followers who love the cat videos you've been posting, I wouldn't just convert that into a real estate profile.
Okay.
Because suddenly they're feeling like cheated.
Okay. A really great YouTube creator to follow too is Evan Carmichael. He's got like 16 channels. Looks at it from a different perspective. Anyway, it gets very granular, but just as an example to go look at the way that you create a channel. Evan Carmichael. Good mentor of mine.
So guys, this is actually my last slide. You'll be happy to know. We've covered a lot today. I really know that. But I flew like 10,000 kilometers to be here. We might as well have covered a lot. Can we make some noise for that trip that I made? I'm jet lagged. Yeah, let's go. So, in summary, we really did cover a fair bit today, okay? But I think you've all stayed with me, and I really appreciate that. We looked at a bit of a Google Ads deep dive. Remember, we got into even the weeds of like how cost per click works, all that sort of stuff. I just wanted to give you an understanding for what is even going on when you type a word in and you press enter. Or you type in your keywords and you press enter. We looked at some seller-side lead strategies. We also looked at some buyer-side lead strategies. Quick look at what kind of budget we might expect to be spending or what results we might expect from a given budget. Quick comment on retargeting, and then we spoke about organic content on YouTube. So it's a lot. I know we had a lot of information here, but I really do hope, that we're walking away from this, and as we walk into lunch, I think, Lisa, is the next thing? Not even. You don't even get a chance for lunch. We're straight into
You
the
don't
next.
get to eat. No, we have a little Ross love coming up here
Okay.
next.
Guys, we got
Yes,
Ross
we're going to
coming
pump you up for
Actually,
lunch.
And look, he's probably going to be dancing. I must say, actually, as I was waiting
He
out
will.
there, before I was about to come on, I had a screen, and I could just see this guy dancing, and I loved it. And I thought, I've never been to an event like this. It's like a nightclub at 9 o'clock in the morning. And
Yes.
it's the American
we're
dream.
going
It's
for
the American way. I love it. So, or maybe that's just how realtors roll. I'm not sure.
That's how we roll.
That's how you roll.
That is how
exactly.
we roll.
That's how Lisa rolls. Can we give it up for Lisa as well? I really think she's done an amazing job. Exactly. Super grateful. Look, she's flown me all the way out here. It's been an absolute pleasure to come and speak with you. So thank you so much. It really means a lot to me. I hope you understood my accent. I hope you understood most of what I had to say. I'll be sticking around if you want to come say hello. Q&A if we feel like it. Otherwise, I'll just leave you there. So thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate it.